This.
Man, hook it up, man. Hook it up, man.
I got you.
Don't play, man. It's a new year.
We own this thing.
Hey, man.
Your mic is live, you know.
Hey, man, I ain't gonna say nothing.
Your mic is live.
I'm not gonna say nothing about Barack Obama, man.
Don't you do it.
I'm not gonna say nothing.
And don't say that
Like
P
this
word.
No, I can't say the P word either, man. We gotta guess.
Tell them what the P word is. Don't want to think the wrong thing.
No, promise.
Yeah.
Prophetic.
That's prophetic.
Yeah, I ain't gonna do that
Hold on,
either.
you ain't ready.
I ain't gonna do that. Man, I love this song. Man, this the year here, boy. Big time.
Yeah. How you feel over there, Captain? Captain? You good?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Stokes, man. What a captain.
I'm done. Captain's good.
There you go. Captain's good, ain't it? Captain's good, ain't it?
Yes, sir. Captain's
Yeah.
There
good.
you go. There you go. See that?
Man,
See
chill out,
that?
old
There
man,
you go.
don't-
Getting out business. See silent conversation.
Oh, man. This will be the last time you in here when I bring a guest. This will be the last
The last time.
time. So you take a picture, get it done. Good evening. This is your host, Joaquin Thompson, coming to you live from
Where you at?
Little bro. We still getting a lot of
Yeah, I
we
got
still
that.
getting a lot of feedback, man, in the green room. But this is Joaquin Thompson Sr., and I'm the host of the Daily Bread Radio Show, coming to you live from Lilburn, Georgia. We're right outside of Atlanta, getting really, really hyped because we're about 2.5, 3 weeks away from the Super Bowl. We're getting ready to host the Super Bowl, so that's going to be super big, and we're excited about tonight's show. And we have a very special guest in the studio today, and this is someone that I affectionately call the $600 million man. And I put it all out on social media. I've been telling. I know, man. I ain't say six. I ain't say six. I ain't say 60. I ain't say 600, 600,000. I said the six. I didn't even say 6 million. I didn't say 60. I said the $600 million man. And we're really, really, really pleased. Listen, there you go with them sound effects and stuff, man. Just chill out, man. Chill out. We got to be efficient with our time tonight. But we're really, really excited to have Mr. Ivy Stokes in the studio with us today. And for those of you all that are joining us for the first time, this is a show about personal finance. And what we do on the Daily Bread Radio Show, we're celebrating episode 85. This is a weekly show. Come on 8 to 9 every Thursday night. And everything that we talk about is about personal finance from a spiritual perspective. We don't do religion on the Daily Bread Radio Show. So that way we don't get into all these different doctrines. You know I'm Islam and Baptist and Pentecost. We just know it's one thing, it's one entity, and that's God. Everybody understands that. So we do our show from a spiritual perspective, so that way we can keep God in it, but we're not going to talk about religion. Because when you start talking about religion, then you put man in it. So the Daily Bread Radio Show is a weekly show. The only thing that we talk about is personal finance. We talk about everything related to personal finance, from money to investing to credit to debt to income statements, balance sheets. We talk about a little bit of everything. And tonight, I got a very special guest in the audience. He's going to share some wisdom with you. I met this gentleman about six or 7 weeks ago, and ever since I met him, he's very humble, very informative. And the thing that's the most impressive about Mr. Stokes is he's always willing to share. And a lot of times in life, especially in the financial arena, you meet a lot of people that have been very successful in what they do. And then when you go to ask them a question about, like, how did you do it, or what do I need to do, they get real vague on you, like, well, you got to work hard. You gotta believe. I'm like, yeah, I know that part, but I need some steps. Kind of like, when you're doing a recipe, And Mr. Stokes shared a story about his mom being the champion pound cake maker. Like nobody could make a pound cake like his mom, right? She was the expert. So when you're doing things like making a pound cake, in order for you to be able to come behind her and attempt to be able to do the same thing that she does, you got to have a recipe. So tonight, that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about ways that you can find out the steps that you need to just improve your financial situation. This is 2019. A lot of people talking about a lot of things. It's the beginning of the year. They want to, increase their money. They want to improve their credit. They want to decrease the amount of debt that they have. They want to start a business, and they also want to have some investments. So tonight, you're going to get all 5 of those tonight, and we're going to try to touch on those and be efficient with our time. But with that being said, Mr. Stokes, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here today. Just want to say thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to share some great information with people out there tonight.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. So I guess what we need to do is a couple of things. Let's do a little housekeeping first. So the first thing we need to do is do this. If you want to call into the show, the number to the show is 678, and we'll put it into the chat, 678-381-1973. 678-381-1973. The second thing is this. If you're on the episode tonight, or if you're watching this, because I know a lot of people like to go back and watch a replay of this show, do me a favor and yourself, go to daily.myecon.net. Go to that website. You can find some very informative information. You can follow, all my contact information is there. You can follow up with me. We need to do some business together this year. That's the bottom line. We've been talking about a lot of things, a lot of people saying a lot of things, but now is the time for us to start taking some action. So we're going to keep that going throughout the episode tonight, daily.myecon.net, because what we're going to be doing, and it came up last week when we was talking to Sir Markadu, and want to thank Sir Markadu and his guests for being in the studio. He came back to join us tonight, and we touched on this last week that this is bigger than us, right? This is bigger than us, and we really felt like, from a financial standpoint, it really feels like it's a new movement that's starting along. So, Mr. Stokes, what do you think? What's your take on where we are and where we're going from a financial perspective?
Well, I think that, when you look at America and you look at the great Atlanta area, also, obviously there are many people that are in need, many people that have desires and have things that they want to do and need to do financially. But from my perspective, this is the best time in history to be born. And it's the best time in history to be an adult, because now the playing field is much more level because of the internet and access to information. If you go back 20, 30, 40 years ago, the situation wasn't much better financially, but you didn't have access to information and you couldn't compete because of the internet. So now with the internet, it's an open field for anybody that wants to start to play.
That's it. And we talked about the ability to be able to leverage the internet for things just like this show, right?
Absolutely.
So you have a medium. We come on here every week. We don't have no FCC. We don't have somebody telling us what we can and can't talk about. We have freedom of speech. We can talk about whatever we want to talk about. But at the same time, we can leverage into our audience and do the things from a financial standpoint that we want to do. So nobody's really stopping us. I mean, the limit is only what we put on it. So from a financial standpoint, we really, really understand, Snapchat and Facebook and YouTube. We talked about how many people are getting wealthy just doing YouTube and having their own YouTube channel. So with that, I mean, I agree with you. It's the best of times. And like we were talking about in the green room before we came on, it's a lot of different ways with MyEcon. So let's just jump right into MyEcon. So kind of share with us, what was the genesis, or how did MyEcon, how did it come about?
Well, before I talk a little bit about, how MyEcon came about, what I'd like to do is just talk just a minute about what is personal financial success. You hear people say that all the time. I want to be financially successful. Well, in MyEcon, we have a definition. That definition is basically having enough cash flow to support your lifestyle. So that's a different number for everybody. Some people need $3,000 a month, some $5,000, some $10,000, some $20,000. Everybody's got a different amount of money that they need. But we all have one thing in common, and that's the fact that money must be generated from 2 unique sources. As you become an adult, you go out and you start working in the world, that money to support your lifestyle is generated by your labor, whether that's a job or a business or a combination of a job or business. But at some point in life, we've got to be able to generate that same income from assets or investments, because we can't work forever. At least we don't want to.
I'm ready to.
Yeah, so,
I'm ready to go right now. I'm like counting. I feel like I'm in Attica. I'm like, man, I wish the day was the day, but I gotta keep going. Gotta keep going.
Yeah, so if someone's making $60,000 a year on their job, at some point they got to have $600,000 in assets that'll generate that same $60,000. So the formula is pretty simple. Whatever you want to make in retirement, you need 10 times that in your investment account. So we've got to build both things. And then the caveat of all of that is that money that's in the investment account, that's the inheritance for your children and your heirs, when you pass on to another world. So that's what it's all about, building that personal financial success. And I think when people get a good definition and a good mental picture of what it is they're trying to accomplish, then it becomes much easier to do so.
Now you brought up some really, really hot topics as far as, and I want to make sure, I always like to go back and restate when I have guests on, because sometimes when we bring on guests, things are flowing, I think, and I wanted to slow it down so people can understand the gravity of the situation that we're talking about. Because you said it so eloquently, I think some people might have went over their head, but you said, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you said if a person is making $60,000 today, at the point in time when they get ready to retire, they're going to need to have $600,000.
Yes, sir.
In assets.
Absolutely.
Right? So, but the data is saying that right now in America, less than 20% of the people in America have more than $50,000 in their retirement account.
Absolutely. So we're in a very tough situation, almost epidemic situation, where we're going to have just millions and millions of people in a few years just dependent on Social Security,
right.
And that's not really that secure. So we got a big financial problem coming, but inside of a problem is a great opportunity.
Right. And that's the thing, and the reason I wanted to restate that is because many times as I'm doing my research and I'm looking at different things, and even when you're talking to people like, financial planners and financial strategists, they say it so quickly, because this one guy, he told me, he was like, oh yeah, he said, your retirement ain't gonna be no problem. He said, well, how old do you wanna be? I said, I don't think I can go out to 65. I said, I'm just selfish like that. I guess I was like, I don't think he said, well, how old do you want to be? And this was like maybe 10 years ago. I said, maybe like 57, 58. He said, oh, okay. He said, that ain't no problem. He said, but what we got to start working on is this. He said, well, you're going to need about $1 million, and you're going to need to be able to generate like 6%, 5 to 6% on that $1 million, and that way you can live on $50,000 to $60,000, somewhere up in there. I said, $1 million? I said, well, where am I getting $1 million from? I'm like, I'm just working. I'm not, what I'm saying? It's just this huge disconnect in America, and I think right now it's an epidemic crisis is going on. And like you said, there is an opportunity in the crisis.
There's a great opportunity in that crisis because, we always use the example that anytime there is a crisis, that's when people build businesses and systems to solve that crisis. And that's where we are today because, the bottom line is you've got the financial industry in this country and you got a lot of professionals, great people, great products and services, but at the same time, they have to admit that their system does not work for the masses. It only works for the 20% of the people at the top.
Correct.
The bottom 80% can't just work a job and put money in a 401k or a 403b and retire securely. Correct. They got to do something in addition to that because they're just not making enough money on their job to accomplish that.
And to me, that's the huge disservice that we get in life, being in that bottom 80%. Because when you go to speak to those individuals, like I was saying, when I was talking to the guy, he made it so passe. Like, oh, you just gonna need $1 million. And I was like, calculate. I said, how am I gonna get to $1 million when I just got payroll and this is what I'm doing? And he was like, that's just what you're gonna need.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. That's what people are gonna need. And the crisis could you could look at the numbers and think it's even bigger because even if a person was retiring today and they needed 60,000, just to get by, well, the cost of living and inflation is causing the cost of living to go up. So in 20 years, if they live, another 20 years, it could be 80,000 or 90,000.
Exactly. And people are actually living longer, from a health standpoint. So we having all of these medical and clinical breakthroughs in life. People are overcoming things, diseases like cancers and AIDS, and just the natural, efficacy of people just living to an older age. But as you live to be older, you have to have some type of income, because then you start looking at, you might need long-term care.
Absolutely.
Right? You may not need long-term care, but you still may need somebody just to come by and make sure that you getting around through the house or what have you. Because the reality of it is, a lot of times our children, when they become adults, they have their own family. So they don't want to be like, well, I got to go, check on my dad. I got to do this with my dad. And then because you still want to have that sense of independence, and you want to feel like you have a sense of dignity.
Yes.
As well. So, and then it also goes all the way down to another thing that we talk about on the show, Mr. Stokes, is when you get to the point, and you touched on it earlier, when you get to the point where you get ready to transition, you have to have some things in place to pass on to the next generation. Absolutely,
because that's why we're where we are today, is because, I know that I didn't, and nobody that I know of in my generation, in my group of people, actually got a financial inheritance, And so when you start behind, well, then it's hard to catch up, Now, the good news is that catching up is pretty easy, We talk in our family all the time about, I started at the very bottom, but I wanted to get to the 1%. And so, I can give God glory and honor today that my family is in the 1%,
Right.
And so it can be done. And I think one of the biggest things that we have to know is that since we can't just depend on the idea that the financial industry is putting forth with, just work a job and put money into the retirement account, then we have to come to the point where we say, well, what does work? Well, here's the good part. If we look at history, if we look around, it will give us the answers for the future, because everything we have is connected. One, it's just layers. Well, when you look at the wealth that's in America today, the wealth that we see, most of that wealth was built because somebody started a business. That's the bottom line. When you get a business, you get equity, which gives you the ability to own the long-term value of your labor. A job is a blessing, and it's blessed millions of people, so I'm not discounting a job. But when you work a job, you get your paycheck, but whatever you build in that company is the owner's. When you own a business, you get your paycheck, but whatever you build, you own that also.
Exactly.
And so it's like two paychecks. So we know that business ownership is the first step, because you get equity on your labor and you get tax advantages. Business owners get many, many more tax advantages than employees. And so the bottom line is, being in America, free enterprise system with the internet and all the other things we've got going today, starting a business is easy. So you can start a business, get the equity, get lower taxes, and now we've got the first step. And of course, as we go on through the show, we'll talk about the other two steps that you need to put in place. But business ownership is by far the first step. We've got to, because if you can help somebody else build their business as an employee, after a few years, you can get the knowledge and experience you need to build your own business. And that's what motivated me. I said, if I can help somebody else, I can build my own. So I went into business in my early 20s. I'm 59 now. So I've been in business almost 40 years, and have been and I think about it sometimes now in retrospect, and I say, well, I'm glad I did instead of I wish I hadn't, because, if I had just worked for other companies over the years, I would have made a great living, but I wouldn't own the equity on our business. I also think about this in respect to Oprah Winfrey. Everybody knows Oprah, one of the great success stories on earth. But think about if she had been a talk show host for the last, 30 years, okay? Mm-hmm. She would have made, a few $1 million a year. She would have, done okay financially. But she wouldn't be a multi-billionaire.
Right.
Because she wouldn't own the equity on her labor.
Yeah,
right.
She wouldn't own.
She wouldn't own, and that's the bottom line. So we got to get the ownership part in there, without fail. Without that, nothing else works.
Right. And the ownership, the business, and we talked about the importance of owning a business on the show. and we've also talked about the ability to own a business while you're still working. Because a lot of times when you bring that topic up to some people, they say, man, I got to go to work. I'm like, I get you got to go to work, but you can, instead of you watching the game this weekend, everybody cheering for the Cowboys and the Eagles and the Rams and all these other people. I'm like, you could be out building your business.
Absolutely. And now with the internet, building a business is simple and inexpensive. You know, I always say that just the tax advantages of owning a business, you know, for most people will cost them, will save them more in taxes if you start a business part-time than it even costs you to start the business. Because you can start a business now with $20, $50, or a few $100s and go out and turn that into a multi-million-dollar business because of the internet, because you've got access to markets and marketing that we didn't have before. You know, it was controlled. You know, if we wanted to do a show on radio like this 30 years ago, well, that was very
controlled.
Expensive.
Yeah, because I've been trying, I ain't gonna call those stations out. I ain't gonna, so y'all done touched the soul point. I'm not gonna tell you how many applications I done put in, how many times I done talked to different people who were what I consider gatekeepers at radio stations. I'm like, hey, I'm good at this, I love doing it, I'm passionate, you know, got a huge audience. Oh, did you fill out the application? I'm like, I filled it out 3 times. I done sent you my demo. I sent you, you know, different shows that I've had all these different guests on. Okay, we'll get back to you. Meanwhile, I'm like, you know what? We're going to build the equity right here. We're going to start
Absolutely.
right here, right now, so that way when people go back and they say, well, you got the shows? Yeah, we're going to have the best of the Daily Bread Radio Show. We're going to have the workbook to go with the Daily Bread Radio Show. We're going to write another book that goes with the Daily Bread Radio Show. So that way we'll have, not only will we have equity in the business that we own, but we'll also have different products that we can sell and different things that we can generate income from without having to do it over and over and over and over again. But we can get paid over and over and over and over and over again.
Absolutely.
So, great points. But tell me about starting, how you started out with just $10. Tell me the 10, but I always call it the $10 story. But can you share with the listening audience what's the $10 story?
Well, the $10 story is this: is that I was a senior at Georgia Tech in my dorm room, and I wanted to start a business. I wanted to make some money. I had done 2 job interviews. I was blessed to be able to get offers from both of those companies. One of them was Procter & Gamble, so a very big company. Another one was Georgia Railroad Bank down in Augusta. Both of them offered me jobs, but, you know, about $25,000 a year, which wasn't bad money in 1982, but I wanted to be a millionaire, and it was just that simple. And so I didn't know much about it, but I knew if I wanted to become a millionaire, I needed a business. So I heard about a little company here in Atlanta, Snellville, Georgia specifically, called A.L. Williams, and they were bringing on people in the insurance business to start their own business. So I got my insurance license from the state of Georgia for $10, started selling, made national sales director with them, which at that time was the highest position. And then I took that money and started the companies that I have today. So, you know, you start where you start, you know, generate some revenue, take that cash, and then go to the next step. And that's what I did.
Wow. And just hearing that, even though, like you said, that was 1982, but again, that's something that, because we have the ability of social media and the internet, you could do that tonight.
Much easier tonight than we could even back then. It was a very tough road back then. It was a hard dream, but it was well worth it. But now we show people how to do 10, 20, 30 times that what I accomplished over a 10 or 15 year period of time. They can do that now in 18 to 24 months because of the internet. Because back then, you know, if I wanted to get a client in Texas, I had to go to Texas. So if I wanted to get a client in New York, I had to go to New York. Whereas now, you just hop on the internet, hop on a phone, hop on a webinar, and it's all done in 30 minutes.
Right, and now you got clients all over the nation, and the whole world is your market.
Absolutely.
So from a business standpoint, back then when you were selling a product, your market was limited. So you had to be more dogged about it. Like, I got to get out, I got to knock on some doors, I got to, you know, shake some hands, kiss some baby. I got to do whatever it takes. But you could only do it within a certain radius. Whereas now you can reach people all over the world.
Absolutely.
You know, it's all up to you and what you can do and how you do it. So the other thing that was very intriguing about My Econ, and again, you all are tuned in tonight, or if you're looking at this on the replay, definitely go to daily.myecon.net, daily.myecon.net, and you'll see the video, you'll see the other products that we have on there, and let's, like I said, let's do some business together. You have the number to the radio station, 678-381-1973. If you have questions, if you want to follow with me off the air, cell number is 404-993-3445. But the other thing that we talked about in the green room was the importance of having a way.
Absolutely.
So what's a way? Like, because we talk about, you know, a lot of times people say, well, you got all these different things that you could do, and it's all these different ways you can make money. Can you just really share the power in having a way?
Yes, absolutely. You know, when you look at any business, you look at the restaurant business, you know, they got a flavor for everybody. You know, you look at cars, you know, every major car company has different categories for the different type buyers. Well, when you start, you say you want, if a person says, well, I want to be financially successful, I want to become a millionaire, whatever their financial goals are, they've got to have a strategy, they've got to have a method to do that. They just can't put together 12 methods or whatever and mix them all together, because no matter what business you start, there is a marketplace and a demographics that fits that business. You know, just like in our business, well, you know, one of the products that we market tremendously is a product that's credit repair. Well, you've got 68 million people in America that have poor credit, okay? 80% of everybody in America has something negative on their credit. Well, the demographics tell us that, you know, the younger a person is, the greater chances of them having poor credit, because, you know, they haven't had time to establish themselves in the marketplace. They haven't had time to buy some of the things that they want to buy. So that's a product that is, you know, primarily for the younger market. Well, when you start building a business, you have to look at the demographics that you're going to market to, and then you've got to pick a business and something that you says, okay, I can do business and I can do it this way. So, you know, just like this year, you know, there's going to, you just listen a little bit to what's going on in the marketplace. If you just listen to radio or TV or the internet, you're going to hear 100 different ways to build wealth and build a business. Some people are going to say buy gold. Some are going to say buy, you know, flip real estate. Other people are going to say buy and hold in real estate. You know, some people are going to say start a business from home. Well, the bottom line is you need something that you have the ability to do today and get started with that right now and maximize that. Because you could spend a year or a lifetime analyzing businesses and never choose a single one. But if you, and that's what I did back in 1981, I was a senior in college and I had $10. So I said, okay, this is a business that I can get in today and make me some money, rather than sitting there thinking about, well, you know, if I had $100,000, I could get a McDonald's. Or if I had this, $30,000, I could get that. If I could get a loan. No, that was something that I could do that day. So I got in business, went to work, started making money, made a lot of money, and, you know, that was good.
That was an understatement. I was like, yeah, I read your bio, and again, I want you all to understand how successful this gentleman has been. When he said he started off with A.L. Williams, the information that I read, Mr. Stokes said that out of 1.3 million agents, you were in like the top 2%.
Yeah, top 1%.
Top 1%. Top 1%.
Yes, sir.
Out of 1.3 million people trying to do the same thing.
They actually had at that particular time about 1.4 million agents, and there were 400 agents that were in the rank of national sales director. That was the top position, and I made that at 29 years old. So, you know, that was even the high part of the 1%. You know, but one of the things I'm most proud of today is that in our company, we had 9 people that joined our business last year during the year. So they were in business with us less than 9 months, and they made 6-figure incomes less than 9 months, with the top person making over $350,000. Now that's not counting the people that's been with us for years. That was new people. And I call that aspect in business marketing products and services in a red hot trend market. You know, what happens in America is things in society, technology, economically, technology, what they do is they cause millions of people to do the same thing at the same time in a hurry. And that's called a trend. That's called a red hot trend. Mm-hmm. Well, when you can recognize a trend, if you can position your business in a market of a red hot trend, bam, it takes off just like that. You know, and I learned that because of an experience that I had. At 21 years old, I got an A.L. Williams, and there was a red hot trend of people buying term insurance and investing the difference in mutual funds. Bang. So that company just rose to the top, you know, very fast. Well, you know, about 8, 9, 10 years, about 10 years later, there was another trend that came on, and the FCC and the government had broken up AT&T. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden now, the deregulation of the phone industry. So I jumped in another company and got involved in the telecom deregulation and made another fortune because it was a red hot trend. And then when everybody had switched their phones, you know, multiple times, and then the cell phone industry came around, well, I looked for another trend. And now the trend that we're in is financial education, because you can't go anywhere and not get hear or see a conversation about finance, you know? And so now we're in the financial education trend, and I suspect this trend will last for the next 15 to 25 years in this country, and there'll just be billions and billions and billions of dollars made. And, you know, just one of the products in that trend is credit. Can't do anything without good credit now. They can track it better than they ever could before. Another thing is taxation. That was the big piece in the election last year, was taxation. You know, who's going to pay the taxes? The rich, the poor, or somewhere in the middle. Right. You know, another thing is investing, because now most companies don't have company-paid pensions. So people got to now invest and build their own pension, build their own retirement plan. Right. So when you position those 3 or 4 products in the red hot trend of financial education, you have one of the fastest growing and one of the most massive income opportunities in America today. And that's what we're doing right here in MyEcon. So I'm just having fun, making money, and helping a lot of people.
Man, I'm having a ball. I'm having a ball as well, because that's what I'm. And the thing that I've talked to a lot of people about is just what you just shared. And the fact is this: for us, and when I say us, I'm just talking about like-minded people.
Yes, that's it.
Now, one thing about being around like-minded people, you can take the money off the table. Not to say, well, I don't want to invest, but when you're talking about small investment amounts, so we're not saying, okay, everybody had to invest $2 million, $3 million, whatever, but we're talking about small amounts of money. But then you get the opportunity to have a conversation with someone like yourself to say, well, nah, I done seen this before, I done did this before, do it this way.
Absolutely.
Right? That will save you time, effort, and energy, and help you get to your goals a lot quicker. So you have to, just being able to have the equity in your business to be partnered with someone like yourself to say, look, from an investment standpoint, don't listen to all that, you know, rigmarole and all this. Take what you have, take the difference, and invest it. And people say, well, invest in what? And I was talking to my wife the other night, and I was like, you know what? If you want to know what to invest in, I was looking at CNBC yesterday, and this blew my mind. So I'm gonna just give you 2 quick examples. One is the Koch brothers, right? The Koch brothers, they own GP, they own Georgia Pacific, and a subsidiary of Georgia Pacific is Angelsaw toilet tissue, right? So when you start thinking about products that you know people are going to have to use from now to the end of time, you can invest in that. You don't have to be like, oh, I don't understand the business, I don't understand the income statement, I don't understand the financials. I'm like, people are going to be using toilet tissue forever, right? And another company came on last night. These 2 guys, it's called Constellation. Constellation is the name of the company. The thing that made them so powerful was this. They own several high-end beer brands, right? So they got Modelo, and then what they also did was they moved into the cannabis market, right? So once they moved into the cannabis market, now they were on TV last night saying, look, the trend that you're going to see coming up is all these eastern states, because they already legalized it out west, So once all of the eastern states start to really pass legislation to make it legal in places like New York, New Jersey, and then it's just gonna come on down the eastern seaboard, he was like, that's just a golden opportunity for a company like us. We're already positioned on Wall Street, so this would be a great time to invest. And then the guy who's the CEO, he stopped the other guy. He said, wait. He said, listen, he said, let me make this plain for you all. He said, I just purchased 1 million shares of this company.
Okay.
He said, I didn't put in $1 million. And I was like, man, that's a lot.
It's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Right. Well, you know, one of the things that's happened in the investment industry that should tell the world something is Fidelity Investments, the largest money management company in the world. Okay. They just opened up several of their funds to people with no minimum investment. So what that's telling you is that the investment industry is expecting millions and millions of new investors with small amounts of money that's going to get started to investing that hadn't been doing it before. So they just open that up. You know, then of course you have apps out there. You have Robinhood. You have
Acorns.
Yeah, you have Acorn. You have apps where you can get started for no minimum or as little as $5. So anybody can now start investing and have professional money managers manage their money for them for pennies. And so, you know, you don't have to be an expert. I tell people, I don't know how to fix my car and I don't want to learn, you know, but I do know how to find a good mechanic and I do know how to compare prices. And so, and that's what I do with my investments. I go to a money management company and they manage my money and I evaluate their performance and their costs. You know, you don't have to know every aspect. And what I do is I spend my time building our business, generating more revenue, building more capital, and then I send the money to the money management company and let them invest it. And so, and I think quite often that some people get paralyzed.
I was going to say stuck.
Yeah, they get stuck, paralyzed in business because they want to do every aspect of the business. But you have to allow other people to do some aspects so you can focus on what you're best at. And, you know, in our business, what I'm best at is marketing and sharing our story with the general public. You know, we have a great CEO in our company, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Larry Gates. We have a great VP of marketing, Mr. June Collier, you know, and we got a whole team of experts, got a great CFO, and I spend my time out sharing. You know, you don't always have to do everything. As a matter of fact, you can't do everything in a company, and you don't always have to be the person who got your name on the door, because the most important part is just to make money.
So it ain't about, I thought it was about getting the title in the corner office and you overlooking Peachtree, you looking down, that ain't it?
Well, if you make money, you can get all of that and you still don't have to have your name on the door.
So I wanted the titles, I'd have been, okay, my lot have been on the wrong building, you know? But no, I mean, and that's the whole thing. And like I said, this company that I was just talking about, they own the rights to Corona and Modelo and weed. I was like, now you know people gonna be drinking beer, using toilet tissue, and smoking weed.
Absolutely.
They gonna do that. So I don't need a financial. I don't need to see all that. I'm like, I just need to put my money and then let it grow, right? Just let it grow because, like we talked about, and like you shared with us in some of the presentations, the power of having $1 and putting that $1 to work, and just seeing how that $1, you know, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, knowing the rules of 72. And you know your percentages, like whatever percentage you're getting on the money, that's just gonna tell you how quick your money's gonna double.
Absolutely.
Right? So I mean, I think those are the type of principles that we really want to get out. And it's more about us empowering people too. Just changing the mindset. So can you kind of touch on, because I heard Les Brown say something that was very, very impactful. And he said, you know what? He said, one of the easiest things I did in my life was making $1 million.
Okay.
Right? He said that was one of the easiest things I did. He said one of the hardest things was getting me to change my mindset to the point where I could make $1 million.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's very important because, you know, we mentioned a moment ago that people need a method, a way to do business, and there may be 1,000 ways, you know, to do business and improve their finances. Well, I think part of that is a person going through enough personal growth and development so they can change their mindset. because, so many people you hear, I love to tell this joke about, you go some places and people have this great pride in how much, and how great their barbecue is, and then I always say, well, whose opinion is that, yours or somebody else's? Because if the idea is to sell barbecue, then you need to get somebody else's opinion. And so it's the same thing with changing your mindset. Business has a certain way of working. Business works like it works. Well, if you go into business and you want your personal ideas and your personal way that you want things to work, they may not work that way. And so I think that's what Mr. Brown was talking about when he was saying that it was very difficult for him to change his mind, to get his mind in a position that he could make $1 million. Once he got his mind adjusted, then making $1 million was very easy. And one thing that I have seen along those lines many times in business is that, in the society we live in today, it's all about marketing. It's not if you can make the best widget, it's can you sell or market that widget.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that we do in our business is we do a lot of personal growth and development training. We ask everybody to go to workshops on that. We tell them to get on a good reading program where you can read, find you a good mentor, somebody that's been very successful, so that you can start to change your mind and making your mind pliable so you can get ideas from someone else that can help you go where you want to go financially.
Right, and you touched on something else that I definitely wanted us to talk about, which was the power of being exposed to and understanding how systems work and duplication. And I know me and Sir Marketer, we talked about the system that he developed last week and talked about how successful it is because it's the same thing and it's easy to duplicate and it's repetitive. So can you share with us the power of having a system in place and how quickly that can make you move towards that financial goal that you're trying to
attain?
attain?
Absolutely. I think systems are extremely important. As a matter of fact, I believe they're essential. We've all been going down a highway at some point in our life, and it seems like the road signs are out of place, and we start complaining. Well, there's a highway system, right? So, and then we expect that. So if there's no if the highway system has a flaw in it or there's no system there, we get lost and we get frustrated really quick. Well, that's the same thing that happened to us in business. It can happen to us in our personal finances. So that's why we define what financial success is, Now, so then we realize that the ace in the whole thing is we have to start investing, and a person doesn't really have to know, what to invest in. They can just go to a good money management company and have them manage the money for them. And then down the road, if they learn how to pick stocks or to flip real estate or whatever they're going to do on their own, now they can do that later, but a system in place. So in this country, the great thing is you have the internet and and then the social media programs, and they already have marketing systems for that, okay? You can create products that are in templates through software. So there's a system for that.
Right.
And then once you generate the revenue, you already got the money management companies out there, like we mentioned before, Acorn, Robinhood, Stash App, all those companies out there, Fidelity, that's been managing money for many years. And so every step of the way, you've got something in place that can support you, systematize your business, and give you the ability to move fast.
And that's it. I like Robinhood, I like Acorn, but the ability to be able to leverage Fidelity, that you're talking about being able to get the same type of advice that institutional investors
Absolutely.
are putting out.
Absolutely.
Because I talked to a guy, a good friend of mine, who's a certified financial planner, and he was telling me that when you start dealing with Fidelity and Vanguard, he's like, you can get some of the top money managers in the world.
Absolutely.
And now you're not getting excluded, because what used to happen is they would say, yeah, you can put our money or put your money with us, but you need at least 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, $1 million, 2 million, 10 million. So when you get into a hedge fund, it's like, okay, you can get in, but you need 5 million. But now you can go to Fidelity, zero minimums, zero, you don't have to have you can start with just a little bit of money, and then you can call them up, because I've done it. You can call them up and start asking all of the questions about all of the different, money market accounts, mutual funds, where to invest, what's the, they'll send you data, they'll send you analysis, and you can get all of that for a little next to nothing.
Absolutely. Another thing with systems is, obviously what we do in our business is we bring people in and put them into the financial education industry in MyEcon. But, all over the country, we have training classes. As an example, right here in Atlanta, we have training classes every Saturday out of the month, except when there's, with the exception of fifth Saturdays, and there's no cost. You come in and you learn about finance. You learn how to repair your credit. You learn how to minimize your taxes. You learn how to invest money. So all of the main aspects of a person's personal finance, just to give you the magnitude of how bad credit really is, And here's an example. Typically if somebody has poor credit and they're renting, person would think, well, they're losing $200 or $300 a month.
Right.
But if you think about it, I've got an auntie that bought a house in Washington, D.C. in 1949 for $12,000. Well, today that house is worth $750,000, okay? Well, but what if she rented during that period of time?
Whoa.
She didn't just lose the $200 or $300 more that she would pay on a mortgage.
Right.
She lost $750,000 of equity that she could have gained. You have the same situation here in Atlanta. You have people that bought houses here in the early 80s, and those houses today are worth 4 or 5 times. And so when you have bad credit and you can't buy and you're stuck renting, you lose money. So we want to help people get their credit repaired. That's real easy to do. We have a great do-it-yourself program. We tell them everything that they need to do, and they can start seeing results as quick as 30 days. We got tens of thousands of people doing that. And when you can do that, and then because you're a business owner and you're using the product in the business, it's tax deductible.
And that's I've shared that. I done said it different ways. I think the next thing I'm gonna do is probably put it in like different languages. Cause I'm like, that's just, if somebody's telling you basically you could get a free business.
Bottom line, because the government has given people incentive to start businesses. The government realizes that unless we build more businesses, and build a stronger economy, it's going to take the whole system down. Because if a country doesn't have a strong economy to support the people, then crime is going to rise. And that'll take the whole thing down. So the government has given people great incentives to go into business for themselves. And then when you start doing business on the internet, it lowers your business costs. You see companies that were multi-billion-dollar companies 30 years ago going out of business, and you see small startup companies that's been in business 4 or 5 years just flourishing.
Yes.
And so what we need to really be happy about, and I know it gives me great joy, is that because the world is evolving, our opportunity is now here today. I used to think when I was young, I said, man, I'm late. All these other people already entrenched. And then all of a sudden, technology changed the world, and they're no longer entrenched.
Right.
We're all in the same place now.
Right. And we all got the same opportunity. So, my goal is to, make sure that, because for me, when you start talking about investing and equity, I like the equity that you gain from the relationships. So I know I've met you. Sir Marketer, me and him talk a lot and just bounce things off each other. And the thing that me and him talked about on the show last week, the beauty of it is we're not benefiting from each other, but our relationship is benefiting. We're building what I call relationship capital.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
that's big.
He's telling me different things. He's pushing me, man, don't worry about this, do that. And I'm like, okay, I'll help you, you help me. And I was like, wow, that's powerful.
That's powerful.
That's powerful. In addition to all of the other stuff that we've talked about, the credit, the systems, the having a way, to the money management, to knowing where to invest, and just starting your own business. So again, if you haven't gone there, go to daily.myecon.net, daily.myecon.net, and let's make some money this year. Let's make some money together because, like Mr. Stokes said, proven system, and that's the other thing that you always want to keep in mind, because a lot of times people come with different, feedback about different things, but I'm like, the system works. It's like McDonald's, right? It's like you being able to get a franchise. a Starbucks. So if somebody came to you and said, hey, you can buy a Starbucks for less than $100 a month, you'll jump right on it. A Starbucks, a McDonald's. But you can take this opportunity, and the thing that I like most about it is like, you can make as much as you want for as long as you want. So it may not be this year. Mr. Stokes said, hey, we had some people, within a year they made $100,000. Okay, that's fine. But what if you made an extra $50,000 and it took you 2 years? But I mean, that's still good. Because you're still working in other systems and you still understanding how the process works. And one of the things that we talked about, another young lady that I met, going to the trainings, going to a meeting, she was a young lady shared her testimony. She said that she started learning from the system, changed the way that her and her husband managed their money, became over a 10 or 15 year period, became debt free, right? Paid off all of their debt, all of their consumer debt, and had $1.1 million in savings already. And I was like, wow. So first I was like, man, she must have a huge team and a lot of people working for her. And Mrs. Stokes shared with me, he was like, no, she took the system, put the system in place and started paying off debt and freeing up money. You all don't understand the power of having access to capital. Because when things come up, and we've talked about this before, opportunities are happening every day. But if you don't have capital to take advantage of the opportunity, there is no opportunity. It's just not there. But people every day need 5,000, you can get in this deal, 10,000, 15,000, 100,000, whatever it is. But if you have no capital, you have no savings, you have no emergency fund, you still, we do this paycheck to paycheck. I get it, and that's one of the things that I feel confident about on this show is anything that a person can call up here and say that they're experiencing, I've experienced it. I've had a bankruptcy, repo, tax lien, tax court, all this other stuff, but I learned from that by putting things into place, and now I'm just in a different space. So now, if somebody want to talk about it, we can talk about it, but I'm going to be empathetic, but I'm not going to be sympathetic about it because I understand, because I've been there. I've had somebody snatch my car before. So I'm not going to be on here and be hypocritical and say, oh, you need to just work harder and focus. I'm like, no, sometimes we make bad choices because we don't know. But the thing is, the charge is, you can't make bad choices and don't learn from it. Because once you don't learn from it, then you're prone to doing it again and again and again. But if you learn from it and get around some people that have already done what you're willing to do, just get around them. Just get in that atmosphere. That's why it's important to be in different atmospheres. If you want to get healthy, don't just work out at home. Get to a gym or get into a running club so that way everybody around you can be pushing you like, I thought you wanted to lose weight. You need to get to run. Oh, I ain't seen you in a little while. Where you been? So that way it keeps you motivated like, yeah. But if you're trying to do it solo and don't nobody know, it's easy for you to quit. And this year, this ain't the year to quit this year. It ain't no quitting this year. We're not quitting. We got everything in place. We got the internet. We got resources. We got capital. We got relationship capital. We got equity. We got people like Mr. Stokes, Sir Markadu, Raheem, and we got the internet. So we can do shows. And one of the things that me and Sir Markadu talked about last week, and I told a parent this week about that. We can take young people in these same systems that Mr. Stokes is talking about, Sir Markadu is talking about, I'm talking about. You can take young people, instill that into them while they still young, and they'll start to learn about credit before they even get a student loan. They'll start to learn about savings before they even need it. Instead of them graduating, and I get it, because like I said, I did that. Graduate from college, I'm all excited. Then you get out into the job market, you're like, man, this ain't a lot. What I'm gonna do with this? Especially if you get married young and have kids. So you need to have more than one, what I always call it, you need to have more than one weapon. Just kind of like when you go into battle. You might be good shooting a gun, but once the gun run out of bullets, you better be good with some hand-to-hand, or you can throw some knives or something else. So you got to have something else that you're willing to practice on. You have to practice and get through that whole stage of, man, I'm not good. Because you got to be bad before you can be good, and you have to be good before you can be great. That's just it. You can't just come right out the box and be great. You're not going to just jump right out and be Mr. Stokes. It takes time, effort, energy, a lot of patience, a lot of grit, because it ain't no quitting. So with that being said, and Mr. Stokes, he touched on that about the importance of reading different things. So every week on the Daily Bread Radio Show, we always highlight a book of the week. So we've been doing this is our 85th episode. So this would be, and sometimes I bring on 2 or 3 books, but this week I thought it was appropriate because I knew Mr. Stokes was going to be our special guest. This is a powerful book, The Millionaire Next Door. If you haven't read this book, I highly recommend that you get this book and put it in your library once you finish reading it, because what this book does is it dispels the myth of what it means to be a millionaire. This is not talking about people who just drive around in Bentleys and Rolls Royces and Lamborghinis. These are talking about people who own businesses, that started businesses, that put systems in place to work the American system to become millionaires. It's 7 million people in the U.S. that are millionaires. That's out of 300 to 325 million people. 7 million people that are millionaires. So there's no reason we couldn't be 7 million in 1, 7 million in 2, 7 million in 3, 7 million in 4, 5, 6. We have no excuse. So, but get this book, because this really dispels the myth about what it takes and what it is to be a millionaire. And one of the guys that's in this book, he has a saying that I remember when I first read this book. It was about 15 million, it was about 15 years ago. And what he said was, he had a saying, big ranch, no cattle. Big ranch, no cattle. And he said he would always use that when he would see people that would have these fancy cars and live in these big houses, but when you go in their house, they have no furniture, stuff is disheveled, it's in disarray. They can't cover the expenses that they have, and they really don't have any revenue coming in. So it's all a show. So he's like, you need to start small and build, and as you build, live within your means, and you can enjoy all of that. But it's a process that you have to go through. So I know we're 1 minute over, Mr. Stokes. I want to definitely thank you for coming on the show. It's very hard to get a person that's in the top 1%. He corrected me when I said 2. It's very hard to get a person that's in the top 1% to come on your show and spend an hour with you. So I appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure.
I appreciate you coming
Thank
on.
you
And again, I'm going to end with this. Go to daily.myecon.net. If you're in the Atlanta area, tomorrow night we're going to be having a business mixer. We're going to be at Mexico Lindo at 828 Veterans Memorial Highway in Mapleton, Georgia. Come by and see us. We got some people that are going to be coming out. We're going to be doing some networking. We're going to be talking about the business, and we're going to be getting people started and making money this year. Next week, on the 18th, we're going to have Mr. Stokes. Tomorrow he's traveling, doing his marketing for MyEcon, but next Friday night, we're going to have him come out. I'm going to invite some additional people to come out and meet with us. And the thing about it is, we got to change our mindset. So don't come with the preconceived, they doing this. No, we making money. That's what we over here doing. We ain't doing nothing else. We trying to help people and make money. That's it. Just them 2 things. Helping people, making money. That's why we do the Daily Bread Radio Show every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. We're at episode 85. 15 more shows, we're going to be at 100.
Yes.
Absolutely.
15 more shows, we're going to be at 100. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you. I appreciate the support. Sir Markadoo, what's your guest name, Sir Markadoo?
Minister Lee McClain.
Oh, Minister Lee McClain. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Minister Lee McClain, we want to thank you for coming out and supporting the Daily Bread Radio Show. Everybody on YouTube, everybody on Facebook Live, everybody that sees the replay, hey, you know what we helping people and making money. So if I call you, don't run when you see my phone number pop up. Don't run. I'm trying to help you make some money and help some people. That's all it's about. So y'all have a great weekend. I'll see you all next Thursday. And again, if you're in the area tomorrow, Mexico Lindo, 828 Veterans Memorial Highway, come by, get some education, and let's get started tomorrow. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you. All right. Good job.
Hey,
Thanks, sir. I enjoyed that. My pleasure.
man. I'm like, well, I feel like I'm out here with George. I'm like, I'm Kobe and I'm with George.